Matthew, offensive line at Texas has been something we've talked about for years. We knew that the recruiting over the last couple of classes, especially this last one, has been exceptional. So when are we going to see it play out? How would you grade the offensive line play through 5 games?
I would grade it as a question mark. I don't know what you get with this team. I know there's a couple players on the offensive line, and you get exactly what you know, some good, some bad. Like Kelvin Banks, you don't hear his name called because he's been phenomenal. As a freshman, he has the talent, and if he gets the right coaching and he works hard enough, I think he's going to be a first-round pick when he comes out, and if he decides to come out early as a junior. He's been phenomenal. No issues with him. Cole Hudson, the other freshman, has struggled. He played good in the Bama game, didn't play good in the Tech game. He gets manhandled sometimes, which is, again, a freshman. So I'm fine with that as well. Like, those are learning experiences. The two guys all of us Texas fans have issues with are Jake Majors and Christian Jones. Christian Jones consistently gets beat in places he should not be getting beat. There was multiple plays where you see him get beat inside when that's literally, I think you're taught that as a young offensive lineman, never get beat inside. If you have, at least make them run around you, be a traffic cone at minimum. Next, Jake Majors. Jake Majors has had multiple snap infractions, and you can't be doing that as a junior. That just cannot happen. That's why you saw a lot of run for Junior Angulau before he got hurt in training camp at center. He was originally a guard, but they moved him to center and tried him out there, and I really think he was going to be our starting center, and Jake Majors was going to hit the bench, but unfortunately he got hurt. So I think the offensive line has been good at times, but it's still obviously can get better. It's funny because the pass protection, in my opinion, has been better than the run blocking, and that's usually should be flipped because run blocking, in my opinion, is always easier as an offensive lineman than pass protection, especially in the Steve Sarkisian offense. But it isn't great, but it is better than last year, I will say that. And that's actually one of the things Oklahoma has done in these Red River rivalries. They have dominated our offensive line and gotten a ton of sacks. So if we can prevent that from happening, I think we got a real good shot in this game.
Was Texas in on David Hicks?
Yes, we were. There was, I mean, I'm surprised that he went to A&M. For the longest time, everyone was saying Oklahoma, Oklahoma, Oklahoma. We were in on him. It kind of got cold like 3 to 4 months ago, and that was kind of like a pipe dream. And then he committed, and it surprised me. I shouldn't be shocked because I'm sure A&M gave him a lot of money, but he's going there. They're building generational talent at the defensive line position. I mean, the last 2 classes they've had have been really good. I'm jealous as a Texas fan because that's like the one position group that we haven't recruited well for a long time. Our offensive line, I think, is going to be set. I really like those guys up front, the young guys that we brought in. I like the wide receivers. I like the quarterbacks. I like the defensive backs. We need linebackers and we need defensive linemen, and those are the 2 big issues we've been struggling with.
So, Jason, we were going to discuss this in regards to DJ Hicks and his last-minute decision that surprised many, including me, based on the information I had from you and other sources. But your thoughts about this last-minute turn on David Hicks?
Yeah, this was a huge, huge loss for Oklahoma. I think everyone inside the program felt really, really strong about Oklahoma's ability to land Hicks. He's been to Oklahoma a couple of different times. I think he was even a surprise visit to visit during the Kansas State game. Everything was trending in the positive direction as of the morning of the decision. Hicks had confirmed to Venables and the staff that everything was still good. He was committing to Oklahoma on that day, and then literally 30 minutes prior to the decision, he texted the Oklahoma coaches and told them that he was going to A&M. So, I mean, you're spot on the money. I had heard it was around the million area that what he was offered to go to A&M. So not surprising at all. And to your point on how they've been able to stockpile this defensive line talent over the last couple of classes, but I think Oklahoma felt really, really good about where they were at for the last couple of months, and for that to happen late was I think very, very disappointing. So now you still kind of you have to reevaluate. You've got some guys that maybe you weren't that you're in on, that you haven't really kind of pulled the trigger on yet, so they'll have to go that way. But man, I think that was a guy that you could, for particularly for Oklahoma, and then maybe for A&M as well, that you could plug in as an immediate day one starter next year on that defensive line.
Talking OU in Texas, Red River. What is it these days? Rivalry, shootout, showdown. I think we're going showdown. That's the most politically correct one. Even though I don't like it because showdown, it's generic. Anyway, it's been the Red River rivalry forever in my book. So whatever you want to call it, folks, it's OU in Texas. And how do you size up, Matthew? Jason and I hit on this briefly, and we hit on it every week, just kind of sizing up the Big 12, looking at the other teams in the conference, because like looking at Oklahoma's situation, if you tore off the name Oklahoma and the colors off the jerseys and just watched them play, of course, over the last 2 weeks, you'd be like, wow, this team might be the worst team in the Big 12. Looking at the other teams and how they're playing, because for as void of an elite program right now, I'm not saying Oklahoma's not an elite program, folks. I'm not saying that. I'm talking about the product on the field right now. It's a very deep conference, and there's no Vanderbilt, there's no pushover Northwestern, so it's tough week to week. You're going to play a legitimate opponent every week, and so what do you think of Texas? What do you think of OU? What do you think of the race and what we've seen and this crazy mammoth game now? We've got Kansas, TCU, college game day, the whole deal.
Yeah, I think it's awesome that they're headed there. I mean, think about it. This is a week where Texas and Oklahoma are playing, A&M and Alabama are playing, and they're going to Lawrence, Kansas for college game day. That's really cool to me. Before the season, I thought there were 6 teams in the Big 12 that could win the Big 12 realistically. Now, I think any team other than probably West Virginia and Iowa State can win the Big 12. I really believe that. I think this is a dogfight. I don't really see a clear-cut number 1 team. I think Oklahoma State is better than the Pack right now, but I cannot trust Spencer Sanders for the life of me. I'm sorry. I've seen enough of Spencer Sanders to where I know he can be good, but I've seen him bad, and he is really bad when he is bad. And Oklahoma fans should know that when they play each other, because he's thrown a lot of picks versus them. So it's going to be interesting. TCU is another surprise team. I thought they'd be pretty good. I didn't think they'd be this good. I think it's funny, though, that Oklahoma fans finally got a taste of what Max Duggan has done to us Longhorns fans for the longest time. He's absolutely killed us. And then finally, versus someone else, he decides to go off. He's always been okay versus everyone else, and then just phenomenal versus Texas. But the Big 12 is very interesting. Like you said, Mark, there's no clear-cut elite team right now. It's a very deep conference. The only bad team I would say is, I don't even know if they're bad, but they're not good, is West Virginia. They have way too many ups and downs, and they don't really have a good win yet. So I'm interested to see them run through conference play and see how many wins they can get. But I think there's a real possibility that 8 or 9 teams here could have 6 wins. I could definitely see that. Like, there's not a great team and there's no bad team. So I think there's just going to a lot of beating each other up. And at the beginning of the season, if you told me Kansas could win the Big 12, I would have laughed at you. I think there's a real possibility if Kansas wins this week, they could win the Big 12, which would be insane. I don't know what the odds on that were before the season, but they were probably phenomenal.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you in your sentiment. I would, loosely rank Oklahoma State right now. I mean, they've got the best win in the conference thus far, obviously at Baylor. So, but I'm with you. I mean, I think Spencer Sanders has time and time again shown that he's untrustworthy, just to be able to lead them to a championship. And he threw 4 interceptions, 3 or 4 in the Big 12 championship game last year, and they still almost won that game despite that. So if they can get any kind of consistent play throughout the year from him, then yeah, I would give them that top spot at least right now. And I think from an Oklahoma perspective, like through 2 games, you've got to say, and I know this is tough for Oklahoma fans to hear, you've got to say that they're probably they've performed the worst of any Big 12 team. I know that you'd mentioned West Virginia, and agree there. They don't necessarily have a super good win. Virginia Tech is nowhere near as good as they've been in the past, and they're a little bit of a struggle this year. So that's their biggest win. But I would probably take Virginia Tech as a win, as a better win than Oklahoma's win over Nebraska at this point. So I think right now you've probably got Oklahoma and West Virginia as right there playing the worst, not necessarily saying they're the worst 2 teams, but playing the worst at this point going into the 3rd week of, well, at least for Oklahoma, the 3rd week of the Big 12 season.
Have either of you guys attended Texas OU?
I have not. I was actually supposed to go this year, and then after the Bama game and Quinn Ewers' injury, I was like, I want to see him play, so I'm not going to. So if he is there next year healthy, I'm going to be there. But that will be my first time. Will be obviously super excited. What about you, Jason?
Yeah, I've been several times. The first one that I ever went to was the 2001 game, which was obviously for Oklahoma. For Oklahoma was one of the best ones, the best
Yeah.
games that there has been. But yeah, it's just such an incredible environment. When I went for the first time, you hear about how different it is from any other game. But I think until you actually are there and witnessing everything that's going on, with the state fair and everything around it, I think it's definitely, I'm jaded, but I think it's the best rivalry in college football because of not only that backdrop, but the 50-50 split, which is unprecedented, except for I believe Florida Georgia does that a little bit in that rivalry. But no, it's an outstanding environment. Even this year, where both teams aren't ranked, got a couple of losses coming in. I think it's always still a big game.
So I have a question for you guys. There's been a lot of talk around Texas circles when we move to the SEC that this could become a night game. What is your guys' opinion on that? I think it'd be cool.
It would be outstanding to be a night game, but I don't think it will ever happen where it's located, because where the state fair is in Dallas is one of the worst parts of Dallas. It's very crime riddled. So this has been a discussion in the OU circles for years and years and years about how amazing it would be for this to be a night game. But unless something changes, unless that area is not quite as bad as it used to be, I don't think that either team would ever be willing to put their fans into that situation for a night game. But no, I would love it. I think that would be just outstanding.